From the frozen tundra of Ursula K. Le Guin's Gethin to the ceaseless high storms of Brandon Sanderson's Roshar, weather in fantasy worlds is more than just a backdrop. It's a driving force that shapes cultures, fuels magic, and spawns legends. Weather isn't just something to weather, it can bring societies to their knees or be the harbinger of immense power. From devastating hurricanes to life-giving rainfall, today we'll embark on a journey through fantasy's most weather-ridden landscapes and explore how this uncontrollable and awe-inspiring aspect of world-building can be used to enhance your story. Welcome to another episode of Just in Time Worlds with your host, Marie Mullaney. Just before we get into today's video, if you want to help me make more videos and pick up some cool world building merch, I have a merch store on Teespring now. There's some channel merch of course, but I've also got some cool meme-based shirts like this one with your search history getting destroyed by world building. And I've got those merch in t-shirts and in mugs and pint glasses, so go ahead and check those out. Okay. Enough of that, let's get cracking with the weather. Just before we get going, it is crucial to differentiate between weather and climate. While they are related, they are not quite the same thing. Weather refers to the short-term conditions of the atmosphere, what we experience daily. Climate is the long-term patterns of weather in specific areas collected over 30 years or more. So it's the difference between a single rainy day, weather, and a region being classified as a rainforest, climate. Okay, with that out of the way, let's get going with weather. Weather plays a pivotal role in our daily lives, influencing everything from what we wear to how we travel, what our plans are for the day, and even what we eat. At its core, weather is caused by differences in temperature and pressure in the Earth's atmosphere, mainly powered by the sun. The complex interactions of these factors cause various weather phenomena such as rain, snow, wind, and more. For example, when warm air rises, it cools and condenses to form clouds, and under the right conditions, precipitation occurs, which is basically just water falling from the clouds in various forms. On a grander scale, rapid changes in weather patterns can have profound implications for the climate and its ecosystems. One historical example is the Younger Dryas, a period from about 12,800 to 11,700 years ago, during which the Earth's northern hemisphere abruptly returned to near glacial conditions after a period of gradual warming. The Younger Dryas was a severe climatic event that dramatically impacted Earth's ecosystems. It began approximately 12,800 years ago towards the end of the Pleistocene epoch and lasted about 1,300 years. In terms of fauna, the Younger Dryas is often associated with the extinction of many large mammal species, such as mammoths and mastodons in North America and in Northern Europe. The rapid cooling also affected flora. During this period, forest ecosystems, which had begun to spread north with the retreating ice sheets, were replaced by tundra-like environments in Northern Europe and North America. In fact, the pollen records show a rapid decline in tree populations and a resurgence of cold-tolerant grasses and shrubs. For human societies, the Younger Dryas period was an extremely challenging period. Many groups had begun to settle and experiment with very early forms of agriculture following the retreat of the ice sheets. However, the sudden return of near glacial conditions and changes in animal and plant life would have disrupted these activities, leading to food scarcity and necessitating adaptation for survival. There's evidence that this period of hardship stimulated important cultural innovation. For instance, in the Near East, it appears that the pressure to secure reliable food sources may have led to the domestication of plants and animals, setting the stage for the fully fledged agricultural revolution and creating an environment where permanent settlements were the norm and eventually giving rise to the complex societies we know today. This period following the Younger Dryas, the agricultural revolution, fundamentally changed humanity's relationship with the weather. For the first time, we became directly dependent on specific weather patterns for successful crop cultivation and livestock rearing. An extended drought or a too wet season could mean the difference between abundance and famine. And if you want to check out my thoughts around humanity's changes, you can check out my eras defined playlist in the information cards. And if you enjoyed that overview of the weather and climate, hit the thumbs up button and let's talk about the cultural impact of weather. The importance of weather is reflected in our language and stories. Phrases like under the weather or weather the storm or every cloud has a silver lining show how deeply the weather influences our thoughts and expressions. Similarly, countless legends and folk tales revolve around weather events and characters surviving extreme weather. Let's take a look at two very different examples from different parts of the world. First, right here in my own part of the world, there is a legend of the Snow Queen. In many interpretations, the Snow Queen embodies the harshness and beauty of winter. The legend tells the story of the Snow Queen, a mystical figure who can control ice and snow. One winter, she abducts a young boy named Kai after his heart had been pierced by a splinter from an enchanted mirror, which makes him see everything in a cold and cynical light. Kai's childhood friend Gerda embarks on a quest to save him, braving many winter trials with her warm heart and unyielding courage. Through her journey, the story explores the themes of love, resilience, and the struggle against the unforgiving cold. The Snow Queen narrative was popularized worldwide by the Danish author Hans Christian Andersen. On the other hand, Anansi the spider is a prominent figure in African folklore, particularly within the Akan traditions of West Africa. In one popular tale, there is a severe drought that causes a famine across the land. All the animals are suffering and they turn to Anansi for help because he is known to be very cunning. Anansi decides to visit the sky god to ask for rain. To test Anansi's wit, the sky god sets him a series of challenging tasks. He needs to capture the python, the leopard, and the hornets, each of which he accomplishes by tricking these creatures. His final task is to capture a fairy or Moatia, known to be invisible. Anansi carves a small doll and covers it with sticky gum. He places a bowl of yam paste the fairies like by the doll. When a fairy comes to eat the paste and strikes the doll for not responding to her greeting, she becomes stuck to the doll and Anansi captures her. As a reward for his cleverness, the sky god brings rain to the parched land, ending the drought. The story of Anansi bringing rain encapsulates themes of intelligence, resourcefulness, and survival in harsh climatic conditions. These two tales illustrates the very different impact weather has on the local culture. You'd never get a Snow Queen legend in West Africa, and Finland can't even spell drought. So you'd not get legends about clever spiders ending the drought up here where I live. When you're creating your fantasy cultures, your myths and legends, think about the impact of local weather. Are your winters snowy and cold? Here, even in Helsinki, where I live in the southern part of Finland, the winter snow easily comes a meter high. So, in such an environment, create myths like the Snow Queen. On the other hand, Is your climate more like that of Africa and prone to droughts? Create stories like Anansi's tale of bringing an end to drought and the suffering caused thereby. Such mythology can help with both enriching your world and grounding your cultures in their surroundings, making them feel more real. And if you enjoyed that discussion of weather and culture, hit the thumbs up button and let's talk about manipulating the weather with magic. In fantasy worlds, the relationship between weather and magic can add an exciting layer of complexity. Magic that can manipulate the weather has far reaching implications. Such abilities could revolutionize agriculture, but could also lead to catastrophic unbalancing of natural systems if misused. Societies with weather controlling mages would likely hold these individuals in high regard, potentially viewing them with a mixture of respect, fear, and expectation. One interesting aspect to consider when introducing weather manipulation in a magic system is the vast complexity of weather patterns. Weather is a result of numerous factors and variables interacting with each other: air pressure, temperature, humidity, wind speed and direction, geography, and many others. If a mage can manipulate the weather without causing unintended ripple effects elsewhere, this implies an enormous level of understanding and control over these variables. The idea of such omniscient control can be awe-inspiring, but it also serves as a compelling limitation to the magic. Consider a magic system where mages must calculate larger weather patterns before intervening. What if an inadvertent miscalculation could set off an ice age or cause a devastating drought? Such possibilities add tension and stakes to the magic, as well as deepening the world building. The magic user's role in society might be treated with a delicate balance of awe and fear. Their ability is both a blessing and a potential curse. To portray the careful balance needed for weather manipulation, you can look at The Wheel of Time by Robert Jordan. In the world of the Wheel of Time, the Aes Sedai who can wield the One Power must be very cautious in using their abilities to change the weather. A hasty or inexperienced manipulation can result in devastating consequences, rippling out across the world. And they are warned against changing the weather unless it is a matter of great urgency, because nature will always strive to balance itself, often with violent results. On the other hand, in both Percy Jackson and Avatar The Last Airbender, the characters can manipulate the weather and nothing bad happens. The implications, for me at least, being that either the characters instinctively understand the weather or the magic instinctively understands and adjusts for all the complexities of the weather, and thus this weather magic can simply be cast. Now, that is kind of awe-inspiring if you give any thought to it, but I think that the world builders in those cases just didn't want to deal with and engage with the weather on that level, so they did a tiny bit of hand waving to just smooth over, yes, there's a complex thing, magic takes care of it. So if you're including weather manipulation as part of your magic system, give some thought to the vast patterns that form the weather and how your magic system integrates with that. Even if you are going to hand wave the mechanics, make sure that you actively decide to hand wave. Don't just let it be an unconscious decision. It's fine to hand wave, but make sure you're doing it on purpose and by design. And if you enjoyed that discussion of weather manipulation, hit the thumbs up button and let's talk about the weather as a power source. Weather as a source of magic is a captivating concept, largely because of the raw power and energy that natural phenomena possess. Lightning, tornadoes, hurricanes, blizzards, all of these carry immense energy that could be theoretically harnessed to fuel magical abilities. This could lead to interesting developments in the world building of your story. For example, the ability to draw magic from weather might be more powerful during certain times of the year or in certain geographical locations. This could create unique societal dynamics with major status and power fluctuating with the changing seasons or the weather patterns. The Dresden Files series by Jim Butcher is a great example of weather being used as an additional power source. In the first book, Stormfront, the antagonist draws on thunderstorms to power spells far beyond what he would normally be able to cast. Spoiler warning here for Dresden Files Book 1. So these thunderstorms not only provide a visually impressive scene of spell casting, but it also introduces limitations and strategic elements to the magic system. It is also a core clue in the mystery, since the sorcerer can't cast his murderous spells unless there is a thunderstorm. Toward the end of the book, it also provides a ticking clock that drives Harry as a storm is building and Harry needs to find the sorcerer before the lightning starts and the sorcerer can use Harry's blood to kill him with the power of the storm. Another great example comes from the Stormlight Archive by Brandon Sanderson. Here, the natural weather phenomena known as high storms carry with them the magical energy known as stormlight, which infuses gemstones and powers magical abilities as well as magical items. The regularity and predictability of high storms means that the magic in this world has a consistent and reliable power source. However, the intensity of the storms also presents a natural hazard, and much of the world and its creatures have adapted to survive and even thrive in these conditions. Thus, stormlight becomes not just a source of magic, but a significant driver of the world's ecology, architecture, economy, even the societal hierarchy. The weather can provide a very interesting power source in any fantasy world. Maybe it's like the Dresden Files, just a boost in power that is very risky to use because it is so wild. Or maybe it's like Stormlight, a reliable power, but one which has to be gathered and stored, giving rise to a whole new series of tasks and professions around your magic system. I think the power of weather could definitely add some flourishes to almost any magic system, and especially elemental magic systems. And for my thoughts on elemental magic, check out the video card. If you enjoyed that exploration of the weather as a power source, consider giving this video a super thanks. And let's talk about fantastical weather. The fantastical weather conditions in many fantasy stories not only serve as unique features of their world building, but also deeply influence the societies and cultures within these worlds. Weather that deviates significantly from what we know on Earth can lead to societies that are remarkably different from our own in terms of their survival strategies, technologies, beliefs, and societal structures. An example is from George R.R. Martin's Game of Thrones, which is set in the world of Westeros, and this demonstrates how unpredictable and lengthy seasons can shape a civilization. I mean, who can forget the motto of House Stark, winter is coming? It is not merely a familiar slogan, but it is also a reminder to all of Westeros' inhabitants to prepare for the harsh, long winters that can last for years. These extended periods of harsh weather have led to a society that places a high value on stockpiling and survival skills. It also impacts their warfare, their politics, even their religions, with the Lord of Light being worshipped more fervently as winters grow colder and the nights longer. Another example is The Left Hand of Darkness by Ursula K. Le Guin, which presents a world in perpetual winter. The planet Gethin, also known as winter, experiences a harsh climate where the inhabitants have adapted to survive in extreme cold conditions. This unending cold weather shapes not only the physical characteristics of the Gethinians, who are uniquely androgynous, but also their societal structures, technologies, and attitudes towards things like hospitality and cooperation. The weather serves as a constant obstacle, a PvE server, if you will, making travel and communication difficult and influencing political decisions and personal relationships. Another example of strange weather is in the Broken Empire trilogy by Mark Lawrence, which is a post apocalyptic world that is left fractured with pockets of varying climates known as Thousand Suns. These cause dramatic weather changes over short distances. This creates this patchwork of microclimates, each with its own unique challenges, influencing the adaptation and survival strategies of communities living in these microclimates. Of course, we must also talk here about Dune in Frank Herbert's world, where the desert planet Arrakis is extreme in its heat and lack of water, and this greatly influences the culture and the lifestyle of the Fremen people. Their whole existence is adapted to survive the harsh desert climate, from their still suits designed to conserve and recycle water to their reverence of water as a sacred resource. In each of these examples, the unique weather conditions do more than just set the stage for the story. They actively shape the cultures, they shape the behaviors and the lives of the characters, making the weather an integral part of the world building and storytelling process. If you think of Dune, all of their rituals is about water and about the makers, the worms. If you think of Mark Lawrence's books, those microclimates have a fundamental effect on the world. The Gethinians live with winter continuously, and the coming of winter brings this inherent fear to all of the North. This kind of weather pattern shapes the culture. It brings those people together. So if you're going to create such fantastical weather, think about how it's going to influence your culture. Think about how it's going to influence your mythos and your people's attitude, not just to the environment around them, but also to each other. I think fantastical weather is a great addition to any fantasy world. Just remember that if you do add it, it must be more than a gimmick. Let it permeate throughout your cultures. Let it become part of their sayings, their mythos, and their legends. And those are my thoughts on weather in fantasy worlds. If you want to say thanks for this video, super thanks is enabled, or you could become a channel member and get early access to my videos, including this one, that my members have had access to for some time already. If you enjoyed this video, check out my video on creating memorable landmarks, and I will see you soon for another one.